Now it's time to introduce the team. I am Paul Baker. You can follow my Stadium Journeys on Twitter at PuckmanRI. With me once again is Dave Cottenie. Dave, where can the people follow your journeys online?
You can follow me at Sports Passport, a view from my seat, Twitter and Instagram at Profan9.
Also joining us once again back home after a week on the road is Marc Viquez. Marc, where can the listeners follow your Stadium Journeys online?
Just follow me on Twitter at Ballpark Hunter.
And last but certainly not least is our producer, coming to us today from Big Bone Lake, Kentucky, the above-average comedian, Dan Colaciccio. Dan, where can our listeners follow you online?
I'm lost. Follow me online at DanLaw83.
Anyone ever been to Big Bone Lake, Kentucky?
No idea where that... Yes, I'm there right now.
Driven by it.
Sure.
And we also have a special guest with us tonight, and he's actually our first repeat guest. Sean MacDonald is here once again. Sean, where can our listeners follow you online?
I have a blog at sportsroadtrips.com, and I'm on Twitter at sportsroadtrips.
Excellent blog if anyone hasn't checked it out. Excellent. I just read your last entry, which was about Augusta?
I put one up about Wilmington a few days ago.
Wilmington, that was the one. Hey, congratulations, by the way.
Thank you very much.
To your family.
Yes. Her first game. 4 months old.
Nice. Train them young, right?
Yep.
So tonight's topic will be the ballparks of minor league baseball. This is a topic that almost to a man we are well versed in. Sean, you're with us tonight because you have visited all 160 active affiliated minor league ballparks. Is that correct?
That is true. I just got back from Augusta, which was the only new park to open this year. And with that, I've continued to maintain that membership in all 160 active minor league parks.
Beautiful. And Dave, how many have you visited?
I think we said 26. 26, yep.
And Marc, how about yourself?
I have 99 current minor league ballparks, 254 if you count past and independent and college and all that.
And by the end of the season, I will have visited 69 ballparks. What up? And Dan.
69.
Yeah, I went Gronk for a second there. Dan, I know you've been to at least one minor league ballpark. What's your number?
Well, apparently it's 1. I thought it was 3, but I guess it's 1 because the other two...
No, it's 2.
The Atlantic City was affiliated?
I thought you said you went to Trenton.
I did go to Trenton. Atlantic City and Camden.
Trenton counts.
Oh, and Potomac.
You and I went to a game at Potomac together.
4.
All right.
So 2.
Before we jump into minor league baseball, I thought we would, as we always do, start by recapping our recent visits in the past couple of weeks. And I got to say, this might be our busiest recap session ever because, man, like Johnny Cash says at the end of our show, we've been everywhere. Marc, you were the winner of the big trip, so do you want to start off?
Yes, I think the last time you spoke to me, I was day one of my 6-day excursion to 6 different ballparks. I started off at Regions Field, and I think the last time the audience heard me, I was going to go downstairs to look for people. Unfortunately, there was a small crowd. That was due to the subtropical storm that came in. But I got to tell you something. That is one of my favorite ballparks, that Region Field, I tell you. It is modern. It is sleek. It's comfortable. It has this really awesome location downtown. It's an area that's growing. And they have something called the Switch Yard, which is this social area for all ages right outside the first base line. So, the Barons really did a nice job with the construction of that ballpark. If you ever see any pictures of the outside Birmingham side sign on the first base line, it definitely stands out among some of the ballparks in AA and Single A. Next day was the Rickwood Classic. Just very surreal experience. It's almost like I have to go back to take it in again. Here's a stadium from 1910. It has no apologies. It's not modern. It's not comfortable. When you go to a game there, you are experiencing minor league baseball from that era, maybe 20s, 30s, and 40s as well. The old ads, the old scoreboards, the 1938 lights, the small inner concourse, it's all there. Nothing is modern, not even the bathrooms or the players' locker rooms. Truly one of the more memorable experiences I've had at a minor league game. And I just wish I can go back every year because I definitely would taking that experience over and over again. Next day, I went to a newer ballpark, Suntrust Stadium in Atlanta, and very comfortable ballpark. Very nice, modern. It has all the bells and whistles you need. Instead of being in downtown Atlanta, they have it up about 15 miles northwest of town, and they have something called the Battery, which is a little mini downtown right outside the stadium, which is full of excitement. It has drumline dancers. It has a grass area for the kids to play in. It has a giant jumbotron just in case the Braves make the playoffs this year. The fans can watch. Fun little place, nice little location, decent pricing. They have a wonderful little Hall of Fame section there for the past players. Next day, I went down to Macon, which is a ballpark that is almost 90 years old, home of the Macon Bacon of the Coastal Plain League. And they added a few new things to the ancient stadium. They have a beer garden. They have updated their bathrooms. They added signage, covered grandstand. And that place is going places. A lot of fun. The people I talked to there were excited and thrilled that baseball was back. And they think they had 2 sold-out crowds the first night, and I'm not quite sure how they've been selling since then, but I can guarantee you that's going to be a rocking place this year down in Macon. So fun time there. Always nice to see the first game of a franchise. My next day I went to Rome. Very laid-back atmosphere. That's home to the Rome Braves. Just a basic ballpark, nothing fancy, but it fits the community pretty well. One highlight was the Hat Shack. They had a nice assortment of hats for $10. And, you can't get any better than that. $10 hats.
$10 hats? That's crazy.
That's crazy talk. Yeah, $10 hats. I mean,
it's kind of crazy, but it's crazy.
Yeah, they had it was a giant selection. It wasn't like, hey, we want to get rid of these cruddy hats we made from the All-Star game. No, there were some nice selections there. I almost bought a couple. Next day, I went to Lexington, home of the Lexington Legends. Rome and Lexington, those 2 ballparks are carbon copies. Lexington's a little bit larger. And Lexington, I was a little bit disappointed. The Dickey's barbecue stand was closed. I'm not quite sure what was going on there, but I did get some kebab in it, which is a kebab stand for steak kebabs, chicken kebabs, and homemade sauces done by a local vendor. And he serves them up nice and fresh. So that was exciting. And that's it for baseball. It was an exciting week. Also got to check out the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, home of the Falcons. I took a tour of that. So did a little football and soccer action on the side as well.
Nice. Now, had you been to Macon back when it was an affiliated ballpark?
No, that was my first time to Macon in my life. I had never been down there. Oh, I also want to give a shout out to Macon Brewing Company. Whatever you put in that Macon Love beer, delicious. Delicious. So, yeah, first time in Macon. It's a completely new stadium for what a lot of people have told me. Just the updates were huge, and I'm sure there'll be more updates as the years go on because this team will be successful. It's not going anywhere.
Nice. I think that's a topic we'll probably get into some point is the repurposing of all these old ballparks and how people are keeping them alive or how cities are keeping them alive for other use. Rome. I liked Rome. You were saying there wasn't much to it, but I don't know what it is. I remember a lot of kids running around wearing shorts and cowboy boots in Rome.
Well, how long were you there? Like how many years ago?
When did I go to Atlanta? I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay. Yeah, it could have been the day. Just could have been a very lazy day. And not that I had any complaints about the crowds. They did have they have a team of young women that get the crowd excited with in between promotions, and they had a couple mascots running around. So it was fun. It's just, to me, maybe after 6 days of baseball, I was kind of puckered out and, it just didn't do too much for me.
Yeah. And you said they still sell the fried bologna sandwiches down at the barbecue stand.
Yeah, fried bologna and
Bubba's barbecue.
Yeah, Bubba's barbecue. Do not get the boiled peanuts there. They are canned peanuts that they heat up in a crock pot. Total diss to the fine makers of boiled peanuts along the roads of South Carolina.
Hey, so it sounds like it was a great trip.
Yeah, it was fun, and I do want to thank Mr. Lloyd Brown for his southern hospitality by keeping me in his apartment for a couple days, taking care of me, showing me around the town. Thank you, sir, and if you're ever up in Indy, I'll return the favor.
Yeah, Lloyd said that now that he has indoctrinated one of the Stadium Journey podcast crew in the ways of the South. Yes. Dave is next, and then I'm on deck in August, I guess.
Yeah,
at the Brown B&B.
Have him take you to the Publix next door and get one of those like chicken tender sandwiches. They're amazing.
So thanks, Mark. Dave, you headed south of the border again this past weekend?
I did hit south of the border this weekend, but we had a bit of a sad spell here in Kitchener. Last week we had Don Cameron, who was the voice of the Kitchener Rangers for over 50 years. He just died last week. So I think every sports fan has this when they're a kid and it's time for bed and they're sent up to their room and the radio goes on, which, mom says turn it off, but you turn it on anyway and you fall asleep to whatever your local sports team is. And for me, I listened to two voices when I was a kid. I listened to Tom Cheek, who was the voice of the Toronto Blue Jays, and I listened to Don Cameron, who was the voice of the Kitchener Rangers. So very humble guy. You will find almost nothing in the odd for Don Cameron, and I hope that changes, even though that's not the way he wanted it. He absolutely deserves some recognition. So that was a little bit sad for us. But life goes on. And for us, that life meant taking in some Paul Baker lacrosse. Not that crazy Canadian box stuff, but that wide open Paul Baker field lacrosse. So I went to Obitz, Ohio, which is basically a village south of Columbus, and went to the first ever Major League Lacrosse only facility at Fortress Obitz, home of the Ohio Machine. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen this place. There's not a ton of pictures out there, but it is a super unique structure. And basically, it almost looks castle-like from the outside. Big kind of dark foreboding looking structure. And basically, they've made a square out of it, two levels. And then past the square is a pretty basic regular steel grandstand. But what's really neat about that square, about that castle kind of structure, is it's made of old shipping containers that have been like stacked and repurposed, and it's really almost bizarre, but totally unique. And when you get inside, it is probably the one spot I've ever been where it actually looks like the lacrosse team plays there. There's banners up for big players, for the Machine. There are other banners and promo stuff. They have a ton of video boards there, which the Machine use to their advantage. And Paul, I know I sent you this message before, and I don't even know if you noticed right away. There are no football lines on the field.
That is always a plus.
That is the way that lacrosse should be watched. That's the way that soccer should be watched. No football lines. That part was pretty awesome. So I was there on Saturday. Now, Columbus, you've got to get your act together because the Machine were playing at 5, the Columbus Crew were playing at 6, and the Columbus Clippers were playing at 7. There is zero chance for a doubleheader there. Now, the weather rolled in, so the Clippers actually got rained out. So I was lucky enough, I went to see the Clippers on Sunday, and they had a doubleheader. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to stay for both halves, and I was pretty sure the weather was going to roll in after, but it did bump the start time a little bit earlier. So I got to see the Columbus Clippers of the International League at Huntington Park. I'm not sure if anybody's going to bring this up, but it is definitely one of the nice parks in the International League. Nice downtown location, a block, maybe 2 blocks from Nationwide Arena where the Columbus Blue Jackets play. Pretty simple grandstand seating, but there's tons of alternative seating. There's tons of Marc Viquez social areas and standing room. And if you happen to go there, one thing I would say that I didn't really care for is they kind of lack – the Clippers have a huge history They've been around since like 77. And before that, baseball in Columbus goes back to like the 1850s. And there's a ton of history there, but it's not obvious. They don't, you don't see their championship banners. They do have pictures of former players on all the section numbers, but they don't have names for them. So like, wow, that's a great looking guy from the 30s. I don't know who it is, but, and that's the one thing that I would say they would need to change a little bit. But if you do go, make sure you head up to the Hall of Fame bar, which is above the Bob Evans stand, and they have all kinds of stuff up there. And that was worth it. But on a busy day, you're going to have a hard time getting in there. And lastly, my last piece of minor league baseball, and I mentioned this last podcast, is I got to hit for the 8th time in my career, Star Wars night at the Buffalo Bisons at Coca-Cola Field. Now, I'm sure many of you out there have been to a Star Wars night before, and you're probably like, yeah, okay, Star Wars night, woohoo, take a picture with a stormtrooper, and maybe there's a Darth Vader, and there's an R2-D2, take some pictures, and life is good. Not at Buffalo. One of the worst experiences we had is that we went to Rochester for Star Wars night, and we got just that. We got, take a couple pictures with a couple characters. At Buffalo, it's not like that. Buffalo, they have a fan club called the Northridge, and it's a huge club, like 50 strong. They all come out in full regalia. So you cannot walk 10 feet without tripping over some Star Wars character. And they do a huge video production. So there's this whole drama that plays out through the game. So between the half innings, and I think it starts after the 5th, they do like a 1.5-minute drama. And then they do a couple commercials, play a half inning. Then they do another 1.5-minute drama. Then they do a couple commercials. Then they play another half inning. And that goes all the way through up till the end of the game. The game ends. They do some promo stuff. And then they run through the whole drama together. And it culminates with this big, huge lightsaber duel on the field. And then the huge fireworks, the huge fireworks show. There is no Star Wars night anywhere like Star Wars night in Buffalo.
Yeah, you're definitely right about Columbus. I mean, there's other AAA teams where there's a great history. The Columbus Jets, the Redbirds. You could talk about some of the great players that play there, like Don Mattingly. A lot of those Yankees that led to those dynasties in the 90s came through Columbus, and yet you don't see them at these ballparks. Some places when they do it, you really appreciate it, and Columbus definitely has enough room and has enough style to do something like that. So hopefully they're listening to us and they'll make those changes.
I wonder if it has anything to do with who those guys were. So for the longest time, the Clippers were with the Yankees.
Yeah.
And now they're with the Indians. And I'm wondering if it has something to do with the Indians saying, you know what? We don't want pictures of Derek Jeter kicking around our minor league ballpark.
That's a good question. That is definitely that might be it. That might be the nail on the head there, because you definitely would want to promote Mr. Jeter or Mr. Posada and the like. But yeah, they were all Yankees, not Indians.
Yeah, I liked Huntington Park the one time I went. Like you said, it's got a great location, and Pam doesn't share my admiration for that ballpark, because the one time we were there, a tornado warning was going through Columbus, and we thought we were going to get swept away. So being from New England, that's the closest we've ever gotten to a tornado. So
yeah, welcome to the Midwest.
That kind of colored her opinion. But yeah, the downtown Columbus is a very underrated city. I think we've touched on underrated cities before, but Columbus has really got a lot of stuff to do, a lot going for it.
This was the first trip to Columbus I've ever taken and not gone to Schmidt's Sausage House.
Oh,
love Schmidt's.
That's a good place to be. But
have you ever been thermonized?
Not.
I have not. I have not. If our listeners haven't figured this out, I don't know if this is on purpose or by accident, but I think all the members of this panel are also huge Man vs. Food fans.
Mm-hmm.
So you could go through all the seasons of Man vs. Food. The original, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know
season
what
1 and 2.
Guy, forget that noise. The original Adam Richmond, and you'll probably hear us talking about a Man vs. Food spot in every show.
Yeah, and there was another place that he went to in Columbus, the Ohio Deli, that was home to the Dagwood sandwich, but I heard that burned down. So they
I'm the one who told you it burned down.
Yeah, okay, you're the one who told me. Yeah, I went there and I only ate half of the Dagwood, and my stomach erupted as I drove on the Indy.
I chickened out. I didn't do the Dagwood. I did the one size below it, which was the Bubba.
Yeah.
My high school nickname was Bubba, so it was
Bubba.
And I just finished it.
It's a good sandwich. I mean, it's very tasty. I think I saved half of it for lunch the next couple days. That's how big it was.
Yeah, so Columbus definitely a place to go check out if you're in the area. Highly recommend Columbus and its sports facilities. Nationwide Arena. It's one of the better NHL arenas out there. Huntington Field is fantastic. They've got it. They were the first team to get the soccer-specific stadium. Is that correct? So,
and it'll be the first team to see. It's one of the first teams to see their team move if they don't save their team.
Maybe.
And you got Ohio State there.
Yes, the Ohio State University.
Ohio State.
All right. So, Sean, you actually completed your membership, or re-upped your membership, I should say, in the 160 MILB club with a trip to Augusta, the one new ballpark this summer, correct?
That's right, yeah. So the rental car agencies have a one-way special. If you rent a car in Florida and drive it back to the Northeast, it's about $10 a day. And They do this, obviously, to get the cars back up here for the summer. And then you can do the reverse trip as winter approaches when they need them all down there in Florida. So I flew down with my wife and daughter, and we drove up to Augusta. And it was the game. Fortunately, we're running behind schedule. The game was fortunately a doubleheader, and B, it was delayed a little bit by rain. So I managed to get there on time, and didn't explore much of the ballpark because I expected to go back the next night. Unfortunately, that game was rained out as well. You're in the middle of quite a bit of a wet season down there in Georgia. So I did get the 2 games in, but I didn't really explore the ballpark as much as I would have liked. They do have one thing that I quite enjoy, which is 32-ounce premium beers for $7, which is hard to believe, but it's 2 of those will definitely last a double header. Yeah,
you can get a 12-ouncer at Fenway Park for that same price. You like Coors Light or something? Yeah,
no, these are nice craft beers. It's really nice, and it's a nice new stadium. It's like most of the new stadiums these days. They have to check all of the boxes. It's sort of a single seating bowl. You've got a berm in each corner. You've got a picnic area along one side. Yeah, there's some outfield standing areas where you can actually stand above the concourse in the outfield, that sort of thing. It's a very nice park. Because of the weather, it was a very small crowd, possibly the smallest they've had so far. So I didn't really get what I would say would be the full experience. But in terms of counting it, it counts. And I'll probably at some point drive back, maybe later in the summer when I can get a full 9-inning game in and sit back and then walk around. I'd like to get there an hour early and walk around and see everything.
That's interesting. You said it counts. Some ballpark chasers really are I don't know what's the word, really
adhere to certain rules.
Yes, thank you. What do you guys think? How does a ballpark visit? I'm using air quotes. You can't see me on the podcast.
Okay.
But how do you make it count in your list of ballparks to visit, Mark?
Well, normally I would say it has to be a game that lasts 5.5 innings, but there are times where the game does get rained out after 4, or sometimes you get there late because of travel plans. So I count that. There are some people that count walking into the ballpark without a game. And I've gone into a discussion with a few folks, and they said, well, you've been in the ballpark, you walked around, you know the area. And I kind of agreed with them. Yeah, I see where you're coming from, but I'd like to see a game there. Mm-hmm. And so I'm kind of on the fence with that. I think that you have to see a game. And There's one gentleman, Charlie Zeb, who has a website of his own, one of the first people that I knew did this stuff. He says it can't be an all-star game or a playoff game. It has to be a regular season 5.5 inning game. And he has strict guidelines that are just ridiculous. But
A full game that is scheduled with a winning pitcher, a losing pitcher, that sort of thing. That is for me what's important. A rain out, like I've been to games where they played 2 innings and it got rained out. That didn't count. I had to go back.
Yeah.
I think you gotta have a regular season game, and my reasoning's really simple. You can go to a lot of places that have a lot of nice stuff. You can go to a lot of places that are crappy, and it's not the same. Like the crowd can change everything. The music they play, the food they sell, all of that's part of the whole experience. I mean, I could drive by a stadium and take pictures from the outside or sneak my camera in the inside and take a picture. That doesn't count. You actually have to go with a ticket and see something.
Pass. Yeah.
Agreed. I don't think, for me, like sometimes, like you guys were saying, acts of God happen and traffic holds you up or the weather cuts off an inning or two. But I think if you get the majority of a game, it's good. But you can't go to an empty stadium and count it in my book. But that's just me. There's no rules. You do what you want, right? We're doing this for fun.
What do you mean there's no rules?
No.
So, I mean, would you count an All-Star game? If you went to the All-Star game in Pawtucket, would that count as seeing a Paw Sox game? Or
see, Dave made a good point. But I would say yes, absolutely. Some football places I've been to have only been during preseason, but I count them. I've been there for a whole game. I know it's different than a regular season game, and a playoff game I would absolutely count. Yes. Even though you're getting their best foot forward, but it's like saying I wasn't at the wedding because it was a special event.
A playoff game I would count.
Okay. But, to each his own, whatever makes your list. I know there was some guy who, in one of the ballpark groups I follow, that he was trying to get into like 5 or 6 major league ballparks in one day. Like he would go to the game, step foot inside, and then hustle up to the next game. Like that, to me, that doesn't mean anything.
Wow, you're not really experienced
right, you're
anything
not
when you do something like that.
You at least see an inning.
Yeah. Sure. Well, it's all about having fun.
Yes.
All right, so my trips, I kind of stayed local this weekend. I went to Fenway Park. I mean, we've talked about Fenway a lot, so I'm not going to go into it. There's really if you've been to Fenway Park last year, not a whole lot is new this year. I'd say the biggest change at Fenway is Sam Adams is now the official beer of the Red Sox in Fenway Park. So now you can get Sam Adams everywhere, and the big Budweiser deck in right field is now called the Sam Adams deck. And there's a giant statue of Sam Adams up there. So, I had a beer with him while I was there. And Sam Adams, it doesn't even compare to Budweiser. So much better. I went to McCoy Stadium for Star Wars night this past Saturday. And we had talked before about how disappointing it is that the Paw Sox seem to really be losing the attention of Rhode Island and how the crowds are really disappearing. But there were, for this game on Saturday night, there were 11,445 fans there, which was the 10th largest crowd in McCoy Stadium's 76-year history.
Wow.
So it was fantastic, and it brought me back to the days where I was running the concession stands and just wall-to-wall people and craziness. It was fantastic. Yes, Dan.
I'm going to be a nerd for a second. Why was it Star Wars night this week?
I don't know.
Why not?
Because it was the 34th anniversary of Ghostbusters being released, not one goddamn Ghostbusters celebration. What? Carry on.
Dan, you are aware that I have met 2 of the Ghostbusters.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me. I appreciate that very
I want to
much.
say that somewhere in my travels, I've been to a Ghostbusters night. It was in the Milwaukee Wave indoor soccer team had a Ghostbusters night.
That's awesome.
Not a baseball team, but an indoor soccer team in Milwaukee.
There was a
I've been to Batman night in Rochester. They brought in Julie Newmar and the Batmobile.
Yeah,
She wears
that's
her
cool.
original cat suit.
I mean, no offense. I'd go to see Julie Newmar anywhere. They did have a night. I forgot the team. I know somebody here will know it. Where they had a Ghostbusters night. Bill Murray was there, and he threw out the first pitch. And it's minor league, and now I can't remember what the heck team it was. I'll look it up in a second.
Bill Murray is part owner of several minor league ball teams.
Yeah, Charleston. I think he was inducted to the South Atlantic League Hall of Fame, if I remember reading that correctly, one of my media guides on my trip.
Yeah, that's awesome. It was weird because this weekend, never mind, nerd stuff. Continue.
Yeah, that's actually where I met Bill Murray. Was at the Brockton Rocks. He's part owner.
Oh, wow.
Let's see. Where else did I go the last 2 weeks? I went up to see the New Hampshire Fisher Cats yesterday. Not a truly remarkable park. It's a Toronto affiliate. So the most remarkable thing is there's a hotel overlooking the field, just like there is in Toronto.
Is anybody fornicating?
They make you sign. I've stayed at the hotel. They make you sign a waiver.
God.
Wow. Now
Hey, there's Paul.
I think
What?
maybe they saw me coming. Nobody wants to
Close
see
your
my
eyes.
Is it part of the ballpark, like in
No,
like
it's
in
not.
Toronto, or is it just like sort of
It's overlooking the left center field wall.
like Fort Wayne kind of thing?
Yeah, more like that. You can't. They do have a deck out in center field where if you're a hotel guest, you can hang out and watch the game there at no charge. And the big news in New Hampshire right now is the team they've got there. Prospects galore. Vladimir Guerrero's kid is there. Craig Biggio's kid is there. Dante Bichette's kid are there, and they are all tearing up AAA. So,
Isn't there a Roger Clemens game too?
He is not in New Hampshire. I think he's one level below.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
So, yeah, they stole 9 bases in the game I was at yesterday.
Wow.
I think Bichette is leading the league in stolen bases, and Guerrero's leading the league in batting.
Yeah, he's hitting something ridiculous like 426 or something like that.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's going to be good.
And everybody's crying up here because he's on the DL for like 4 weeks with a knee injury, and everybody's freaking out. The news as to what Vlad Guerrero is doing is far more important up here than what the Jays are doing.
Well, didn't the Jays sweep the Orioles this weekend?
They
Come
did,
on.
but I don't think that's a. I don't
Stop.
think
That's not saying much.
Stop.
Well, the Mets scored 1 run against them in 2 games, so.
I guess yes, I went to one. I went to that 1-0 game. That was a lot of fun.
The Mets can score more than 1 run a game. Like, that's
Or
never
2
mind.
last night.
They scored 2, and they had Lugo had a pitch a shutout.
They just released Adrian Gonzalez today,
Yeah.
so all of their woes are gone.
Oh, there was Dominic Smith is going to
And
be.
$20 million.
I do hope that they keep Joey Bats until they visit Toronto next month.
Yeah, I do like.
Well,
Well, how's he doing now? I know his first few weeks he had more hits with the Mets than he did his entire stay with the Braves. So, but unlike every other Met, he probably is going 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts.
All right, folks. I hope you have a little bit of time to stay with us tonight because apparently we are going to go well over our hour. Also, probably most interestingly, in the last couple of weeks, I went to a couple of old-timey ballparks that used to host minor league baseball that are now being used for summer collegiate leagues. So I went to Muzzy Field in Bristol, Connecticut, which hosted the Bristol Owls of the Colonial League back in the 30s and 40s.
Ooh,
And also, more recently, the
Red Sox.
Britain Red Sox back in the 70s. So players like Jim Rice and Fred Lynn went through there at that time. And Muzzy Field is so old that the first home run that was hit there was hit by Babe Ruth. They have a sign commemorating that.
Yeah.
And I also went to, where was I? Oh, it was yesterday. I was at Holman
Nashua.
Stadium in Nashua, New Hampshire, which is one of my favorite ballparks. It's a neat little ballpark. It was built in the 30s. It's got a nice old-timey brick grandstand. And interesting piece of trivia, all the seats at that ballpark were from Fulton County Stadium in Atlanta. So the seats that are there have outlasted not only Fulton County Stadium, but Turner Field.
Turner Field. Well, good. Yeah, I got to go to Holman last year myself, and I was pleasantly surprised because I had just seen a game in Lowell that afternoon, which was a dirge to me. But Nashua, very just quaint little setting. It's what minor league baseball really should be all about. And they great staff. They had some nice food options. Beer options I remember being fairly cheap because I think I bought about 3 pints when I was there. But I had a great time. And I remember the left field, they had their scoreboard, which if you stood underneath it, the sound system just gave you this, just screeched your ears like somebody was, trying to tear your ears apart. So that was quite an experience going there and not realizing it. But yeah, a nice old ballpark. Muzzy Field is also a very ancient looking place. Cheap food, cheap tickets, and just another type of experience one will get. And it's good to see these both are being utilized in going into the 2020s.
And there's examples all over the country that, Mark, you were at Macon, Georgia, and the same thing is happening there.
Yeah, Macon. I mean, it's, one thing when you walk into Macon, now one thing I got to say about Macon, when you pull in, there's only one small road going into the stadium. Be nice if there was a few more roads because traffic can be a bear going in and coming out. But when you walk into it, it has this classic it says Macon Baseball Stadium. You walk in there and you get underneath the grandstand. Seats are comfortable. They've been updated. It's a completely covered grandstand. Beautiful, beautiful seating capacity. I mean, you're not too far from the action. When you're there with a bunch of people, it's a great time because you're cheering, you're talking, you're enjoying the game of baseball. And one thing nice about there, if you want to sit in the beer garden, the social area, you can sit in the beer garden, and you got even better views of the field. So it's that's what you want to see. You don't want to see these parks being knocked down. You don't want to see them being razed. Or you don't want some fly-by-night operation coming in there and say, hey, we're going to do A, B, and C. Places like the Coastal Plain League and the Future College and the New England Leagues, they're pretty reputable. They know what they're doing. I mean, they've had some hit and misses in the past, but places like Nashua, Macon, I'm trying to think what else is out there. Richmond, Indiana has an old ballpark that's being used for Collegiate Woodbat League as well. Danville, Illinois has another ballpark built in 1947 by the Dodgers. Just classic stadiums that you don't see anymore. They'll never build them like that anymore. But if you live by one of these or you happen to be on a travel, look at a map, see when they're playing, and just take in a piece of nostalgia. You will be thankful for it.
Couldn't say it any better, Mark.
Thank you. All right, Dave.
I think I want to move to Danville because they have 104 days of summer vacation.
You don't want to move to Danville.
I am a little bit worried of the amount of evil that's happening there, but 104 days of summer vacation, I don't know.
Danville also has a Federal Hockey League team, so there you go.
Oh, my goodness, the Dashers. I have not done a review of those guys yet. I don't know. I don't think Paul really requested one.
You guys either have no kids or your kids are too old because that one totally went over your heads.
I think it did.
All of my students who love Phineas and Ferb know that the song starts off with that there's 104 days of summer vacation. And I tell them all the time that I'm moving to Danville because they have 104 days of summer vacation.
All right, there's our obligatory Phineas and Ferb reference. So let's move on into our discussion of some of the best minor league ballparks in the country. Sean, you are our guest, our expert, so why don't you start off our discussion with a couple of your favorite spots?
Okay, so obviously I've been visiting parks for many, many years. So some of the parks that I went to 15 years ago, say, have probably changed so much that I wouldn't recognize them if I went back. So the things I'm going to talk about are parks I've visited in the last year or two. Only. So some of the parks, that I went to in 1993, sorry. And last year I did quite a bit of trips to complete the 160. And some of the ones that I went to that I had a great time, for example, were in Lansing in the Midwest League, the Lugnuts. That's also a Blue Jays affiliate. And that's another nice little stadium. What I enjoyed about that was it's right next to a brewery. And you can drive in and you can park at the brewery. You can get there, say, a couple of hours before game time. And you can have a flight or a couple of pints. And then you can leave your car and just walk over to the stadium. They don't mind. And then you can enjoy the game. And by the time the game is done, the booze is worn off and you can drive back to your hotel. So that's the sort of thing that I really enjoy. Paul?
I did something similar when I went to Lansing. There was about 2 blocks from the stadium is an old restaurant with a big train in the front. And so we did the same thing there. We parked our car there, had dinner, and then went over to the game.
Yeah, exactly. Things like that for me, it's more than just a stadium. It's the overall experience that I'll remember. And Lansing, that was nearing the end of my trip. That was, I think, the second last park. That was number 159. So I had a bit of a special meeting. I was with some friends who had flown down from Ottawa to join me for the end of the trip. So it was a great overall experience. And we saw some future Blue Jays as well. Going out west, I also did quite a bit of traveling out west last year to the Pioneer League and the Northwest League. And these are some great old stadiums. Spokane is one. The Spokane Indians. They have an old stadium that used to hold a AAA team. So it's big. It's a big stadium, but now it's a Northwest League team. So it's short season A-ball. So they're not attracting big crowds. You have this big stadium with a relatively small crowd, but still all of the amenities are there. Some great beer, great food options. Free parking, of course, which is always important, especially at the low levels. Some places, now they're charging $5 for paintball parking, which I don't agree with at any time.
I heard Kane County was $10 they're charging.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. I was there last summer.
Wow.
That's
crazy.
incredulous.
Yeah. And I talked to some of the staff there and got to know them, and it was just such an enjoyable experience in Spokane. And another couple of places in the Pioneer League. One was Idaho Falls. And, that's obviously not a place that you're going to go to for any other reason probably than to see a Chukars game. And within that stadium, there's an old style a Hall of Fame that's worth seeing. And that just adds to the whole experience. When you're there, you walk in and you're seeing all of this old stuff on display that is curated by one individual. And it's really incredible. And that, just makes the whole evening worthwhile. Grand Junctions, another place, almost in the middle of nowhere in Colorado, this stadium, and they have $3 beers. I noticed a lot of my highlights happen to do with beer. I'm not sure why that is, but and again, it's a big, large stadium that attracts a smaller crowd, and so you have a lot of room. One of the things I like to do is stretch out. I don't like some of these stadiums where you're kind of crowded in. I'm trying to keep score, and people are getting up, and you can get a row to yourself and just relax, sit back. Foul balls are coming all around, and people are chasing them, that sort of thing. So I really enjoy that place. And then Fort Wayne, of course, us at Stadium Journey, we have a special relationship with them. That was near the end of my trip, and they allowed me to step on the field and throw a first pitch when I was there. And I was interviewed on the radio as I was nearing the end of my trip. So that was a great stadium. Again, with I believe they have an apartment complex above left field there, some bars just beneath, so you can have a couple of beers before you walk in the stadium. It's a great little area. They really know what to do to make fans happy there, and it was a huge crowd when I was there. Really impressive operation from start to finish at Fort Wayne. So that's just a few that I visited last year that really I really enjoyed, and sort of made me realize just why I've been doing this for so many years. It's those experiences, more than just the stadium. It's the overall experience that I'll never really forget.
Nice. Now, in Lansing, have they finished those condos that are right out over the right field wall?
I don't know if they finished them now. I don't remember what the situation was last year. I'd have to look at my blog to see what's going on there.
Yeah, when I had gone there, they had just started construction. This is probably 3 or 4 years back, and I remarked, when we retire, this is what I want to do. I want to find a place overlooking a ballpark, like you were talking about Fort Wayne, or
right.
Something like that. Man, that would be just heaven.
Yes.
Just sit on your back porch and just take in the game.
Augusta has that under construction as well. A lot of the stuff in Augusta is still under construction. The stadium's there. The surrounding area needs quite a bit of work, so that's another year at least. But they'll have that as well. And I've noticed a few other places where those condos are going up just behind left field.
Dream for me when I retire. So that's what, in a year and a half. So wow, you got a good cross section of the country there, and AAA lower minors. You got a little bit of everything in there, which is a fantastic list. So, Dave, you want to chime in with a couple of your favorites?
Yeah, I have, like I said, I have 26 current that are done now, but of those 26, 20 are at AAA. So I'm not like Sean or you guys. I'm not really going out of my way for anything kind of below AAA. I've done obviously a few others, but they just happen to be there and on the way. And I'm actually doing a few AA ones this summer, and a couple single A ones. So I am branching out a little bit, but AAA is kind of the one for me. And I'm going to give you my top two from each of the Pacific Coast League and the International League. So my top one from the Pacific Coast League, which I would say is my second favorite overall, is Salt Lake. So Salt Lake Bees. And I was extremely excited to go to this park just to be able to sit there and look out, watch the game, and then see the Rocky Mountains as well. There is not a backdrop in baseball that is better than that. And we talked a few weeks ago about, going to Pittsburgh, and you got the backdrop of the river and the bridges and everything in downtown. And that's nice. but nothing compares to the backdrop in Salt Lake. My most favorite of all time is from the International League. And Paul, we were talking before, the International League is so tough because there are so many great ballparks. Like for a league of 15, if you were to sit down, and I've done the whole International League, to sit down and rank them, it can get painful because that top chunk is so clustered together. But I have one that just sort of steps just a little bit above, and that's Durham, the Durham Bulls.
I agree.
It is an absolutely beautiful ballpark. I went quite a while ago. So I went in 2011. And it was kind of at the forefront of all of these extra things. So that, the office spaces around. I think the TV station is out in right field, and in left field there's office buildings and condos and that kind of stuff.
And a bar, yeah.
They have a little Fenway throwback. They have the Blue Monster in Durham, and above the Blue Monster are a couple things. Number one is Tobacco Road, which is an absolutely fantastic sports bar. You can sit out on the patio and watch the game, or you can go and sit inside with the ginormously, massively CN Tower sized big screens and big, huge leather chairs, and you can just sit there and eat and drink all day. And then there's the it's almost right from the movie, the big bull billboard above left field. And I believe if a player hits that, then somebody wins a steak or something like that.
The player wins a steak, and if he hits it on the grass part of the billboard, he gets a salad.
Okay. Like a lot of those top teams in the International League, great fan support. Durham's a great town, of course, the home of Duke University. And if you're looking for an adventure, like many other ballparks, they have the engraved bricks around the ballpark. If you're looking for an adventure, go and find the Crash Davis, like the real Crash Davis, not Kevin Costner, the real Crash Davis brick for his leading whatever league they were in at the time. He led the league in doubles that year. And, being a fan of the Bull Durham movie, there's a little piece of that too. So I actually have a t-shirt, and they will do this if you ask. They will do like the iron-on numbers and names on a t-shirt for you. So I have a number 8 Davis Durham Bulls t-shirt in my closet. So the best minor league spot for me is Durham Bulls Athletic Park.
Well, you took the words right out of my mouth, because I think Durham ranks up there with my favorite minor league ballpark. I do like the old tobacco factory next door that has been turned into like an entertainment center, complete with a Cuban restaurant and some bars. Some of my other favorite ones are First Energy Park in Reading, Philadelphia. Number one, it's an old ballpark that they sort of retrofitted with some modern ambiances. The place is always packed. There's always some kind of crazy activity going on. If you can't have fun at that ballpark, then I don't know where you can have fun at, because the wacky uniforms, the wacky names, the ostrich mascot running around. Another place I really enjoy is Jacksonville, the Jumbo Shrimp now, baseball grounds of Jacksonville. I just like how that ballpark's built. It's definitely stands out among some of the other stadiums that I've visited. Victory Field here in Indianapolis. I don't want to sound like a homer, but the one thing I really have to praise ownership on is how that place looks as new as it did the first day it opened. They don't go overboard with promotions. They don't go too crazy with billboard advertisements. They just give you a simple, honest baseball stadium that has led the league in attendance the last 2 years, 9,000 people. And there's only a couple other parks that say they have done that. Brooklyn, New York is another fantastic place. The sights, the sounds, the smell of seawater coming out of the ocean, the hot dogs, the colors, neons. It's a fun place. It's a Mets affiliate, and it just screams New York City.
I would agree. And I'm not the Indianapolis homer that you are, but I have Indianapolis in that big chunk. Indy and Charlotte and Columbus and Durham and Lehigh Valley and Louisville and Toledo and Rochester. They are all just so close together.
Yeah, I can see
that. And they're
that.
all great spots.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And, other ones I have on my list are, I had said Birmingham, South Bend, Indiana. They took a kind of a vapid looking ballpark that had a good structure, and they made that into a really, fun, wacky place, affiliated with the Cubs. Those are my favorite ones. A lot of people always ask me, what are your favorite minor league ballparks? And, I never really thought about it until I made this list. Places I do want to visit is Dr. Pepper Park in Frisco. That just seems like a magical little mystery tour over there.
Oh, we'll get to that one in a second.
And then Lindquist Field out in Provo, Utah. You want to talk about Rocky Mountain views.
Oh, yeah. Provo's
they got
awesome.
some gorgeous views. And that's a place I would just fly to Salt Lake City, go to Provo, Ogden, go back to, what's it, Smith Ballpark now?
Yeah.
Yeah, go back out there to see a game and then just fly back. Try to convince my wife to take that trip with me. And then I know this is not minor league affiliated, but my favorite all-time minor league ballpark that's currently being utilized at this very moment is CHS Field in St. Paul, Minnesota. Wonderful, wacky events, beautiful structure. Hopefully we'll get to talk about that another time when we discuss independent ballparks.
There's a lot of fantastic minor independent league ballparks out there too, so that would be a great topic. When I told you guys, let's come up with a list of your favorite minor league ballparks, I didn't realize how hard a time I would have. Like Dave, you were saying, I mean, just in the International League alone, there's 7 or 8 that could have made my list, and a lot of the ones that I have on my list have been mentioned already. But I'll just mention a couple more. You were talking about the International League, Dave. Charlotte is one of my favorite ballparks. Just that downtown location with that just jaw-dropping view of the Charlotte skyline over right field is incredible. It's favorite. Toledo, Mark, you were talking about quirky, fun ballparks. Toledo really was one of the first ones to take a downtown setting and put that ballpark into what was around it. So
it fits in like a square peg.
That aren't forced.
And they didn't have a choice. Like there were parts that they were told, listen, you want this spot, you can't tear this building down, you gotta find a way to incorporate it.
Right. And we've talked about facilities that kind of try too hard. Toledo doesn't try too hard. It's natural. It fits into the setting and it's seamless. And it's a fantastic place to take in a game. Mark, you mentioned Frisco. I would dare say that I would put Frisco at the top of my list as my favorite minor league ballpark.
I can see that.
It's really unique when you're walking up to it. It's in a mall parking lot, so you don't realize you're coming up to a ballpark, and boom, there you are. And it's not set up like your typical grandstand with a seating bowl attached to it. It's a bunch of small buildings. So when you're walking around the ballpark, you're weaving in and out of these buildings, and the concession stands are on the ground floor of these. And I think they just use it for team office space. I don't think they're used for anything else. And not to mention, there's a lazy river out in right field.
Yeah. No, and I feel like I've done enough stories and have contacted PR and ownership from Frisco that they keep saying, well, you need to come out and visit. And it's like, okay, but I haven't done it yet. But yeah, that's definitely top of my list.
Yeah, and it fits in, if you're in the Dallas area, it fits in perfectly. It's like a half an hour north of Dallas.
Well, I think once Texas opens up their new ballpark, then, fit in Frisco and something else along those lines. So 2019.
Of course, with it being in Texas, you can get some great barbecue there as well. So you can, get a big, pulled pork sandwich, get on an inner tube and float around a lazy river and look at the girls' bikinis for a couple hours and watch a ball game too, man. It's all the best things in life.
You can just see Paul floating down with his pork sandwich and barbecue sauce all over his mouth. Staring at the 22-year-old girls.
Oh, get out of my head, man.
Paul has just been banned from Frisco.
Have you seen this man? I can't recognize him. Let's put some barbecue sauce on that picture. Oh, yeah.
That's him.
That's him.
No, I would not waste the barbecue sauce to get it all over myself. Another ballpark that I really like, and this is where I might sound a little bit like a homer, No, not really, because Dan and anybody who's ever listened to Obey the Puck knows I hate this city. Hartford. Dunkin' Donuts Park.
Dude. Should we sing the song?
No, do not sing.
They deserve a hockey team.
Actually, I do not hate the city of Hartford. I just hate the hockey fans who think they're getting the NHL back.
Deserve a hockey team.
That's not going to happen.
So, Dunkin' Donuts Park, anybody who followed the building of that, I like Hartford also because it gave me so much writing material over the course of 2 years while they built it. But the final product was definitely worth the wait. It's got some really, I just said about parks that try too hard. First time I went there, I thought this ballpark tried too hard. But then as I've gone back a couple times, I found my favorite spots. Now, if you go to a game in Hartford, get upper deck tickets in right field.
Yeah.
They've got a double deck in right field, which they actually ended up building because of a construction error too close to home plate. So they put a big net over the front of it, and the net is now in play.
That's right.
So, but if you're on the upper deck, you're in home run territory. And man, those balls come at you fast. The last time I sat up there, 4 balls came at us, including one that came right at my wife. She got out of the way. And of course, my reaction was, why didn't you catch it? And she said, did you see how fast that thing was coming at me? And she made the right choice. I was just kind of giving her a hard time.
Yeah, and I had a chance to go to Hartford last year, and you're absolutely right. It's a ballpark that doesn't try too hard. It's not crazy with all these different little vantage points, but yeah, that double deck area definitely is the standout part of that ballpark. Just to sit up there with a couple beers and a hot dog, or just watching the game with friends and family. It's truly something a lot different than what you would get at some other places.
And definitely stands out amongst the cookie cutter ballparks up in New England in the Northeast.
Yeah. Or Rome and Lexington.
Yeah, a couple other ones I wanted to mention real quick. When I went to Round Rock, Texas, really nice ballpark. Again, they have a double deck seating area out in left field.
I'll be there in July.
Nice ballpark. When I went to Omaha last year, I really fell in love with the place. It's a simple ballpark, and it's out in the middle of nowhere, but I had the best time there. It was a relaxing, wide open ballpark. Maybe because I caught a foul ball right as I walked in the door. Maybe that's why. And another ballpark that nobody mentioned was Staten Island.
Yeah.
The view alone.
Yeah.
The ballpark
the views,
is the greatest, but the view, watching the barges go past and seeing the Manhattan skyline in the distance.
I'll give you the views. I'll give you the views. But from my experience, just very vapid ballpark. But maybe I need to go back. It's been a while.
Well, it's empty.
I prefer that over. Yeah. I prefer that one over Brooklyn.
Oh, you're nuts.
I think Brooklyn is, Brooklyn fits in perfectly being on Coney Island.
Yeah, Brooklyn is just.
But for me, I like the relaxed, laid back place. So Staten Island.
Right. It's definitely relaxed and laid back because nobody goes there. I mean, they were charging like $25 a ticket there at one point.
Yeah, that's gone down.
I can only imagine what they charge for parking. And I'm coming in from New Jersey. I'm not going to pay $80 to go see a minor league game in front of nobody. Who cares how the views are? If I want to see New York, I'll just drive on the bridge on the Parkway and take a look over there. I can see the skyline perfectly.
Interesting. I much prefer Staten Island to Brooklyn. Same spot, yeah. Just because I live here, it's
thanks, Sean. You can be on again.
It's easy to get. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, you can take the ferry right over there. It's right next door to the ballpark.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah,
are you aware of the name change that they're doing coming up? Staten Island.
Pizza Rats.
Pizza Rats. Kind of interesting. Just a few days this season, they're going to brand themselves as the Pizza Rats.
Yeah, it's just going to be on Saturdays. Yeah, but I like that name, and that was when they were going to change their name a couple years ago. That was one of the finalists, and I had voted for that. And when I first saw it, I said, "Oh, cool! They're finally going with the Pizza Rats." And then I realized it's just one of these Saturday night monikers. But I like the logo. I mean,
that's really cool.
They did a nice job on that. And if you're listening, Staten Island Yankees, change the name. Change it to the Pizza Rats. You get lost being called we can call you the Baby Yankees as a nickname or Baby Bombers, but just Pizza Rats. You'll sell so much merchandise. You'll be counting the money. You can charge less for your tickets after that.
Well, this is a topic we're going to save for another episode, the rebranding and the food names and stuff, because I think it's something that we could probably spend an hour just talking about that.
I mean, every day somebody's come up with a new name. I can't keep up.
Exactly. Yeah. Are there any ballparks that anyone has that stands out to them that we haven't mentioned yet? We've probably touched on a good 24 ballparks or so.
Yeah, I should add Lakewood, New Jersey. Lakewood, New Jersey has a great ballpark, and I failed to mention that they added a putt-putt golf, and what else did they add there? They added something else. They added more Jersey Shore foods there this year. I'll actually be out there Thursday and Friday, and hopefully get to see the new things. But another ballpark built in 2001 that is clean and looks as sharp as it did 17 years ago. So they do
That's
a
the one that has the
job.
lifeguard chairs in the outfield. Is that correct?
Yeah, they have the lifeguard chairs. But nice big open ballpark. If you compare it to Trenton or Somerset or even some of the even I guess Staten Island, it's a wraparound concourse. I think it's the only one like that in the area.
Always a plus for me, the wraparound concourse. Dave, yes.
Being in the Great White North, and Sean would, I'm sure, agree with this, we are not known for great ballparks. Mm-hmm. And the best ballpark, I would say, in all of Canada is Scotiabank Field at Nat Bailey Stadium in Vancouver.
A oldie but a goldie.
That's the only one, man.
It's an old, it's the only affiliated, ballpark. Wow. It used to be a AAA park back when, Edmonton had a team and Calgary had a team, and then, nobody wanted to travel there anymore. And, just an old school building. They get a great crowd for single A ball there. They could probably put a AAA team in there again, and I think they get kind of AAA numbers. But for a single A park, it's pretty awesome.
But just to, I actually, that was the first ballpark, minor league park I ever visited, because I happened to be living in Vancouver back in the 90s, and that's where I fell in love with minor league baseball. And it was a AAA park. The White Sox were actually the affiliate for 1 year, and Sammy Sosa played there.
Oh, wow.
Before he was famous, before he was steroided, before he was white. So all of these things, and I just remember thinking, that's Sammy Sosa, and this was, of course, long before the internet, and then you would see his name in a box score for the White Sox, and they became an Angels affiliate, and people like Jim Edmonds came through, and it was just fantastic to go down. The tickets were so cheap in those days. 25 years ago, you could get in for, I can't remember, $5, $6, something like that. And they didn't draw that well. You could get in. I mean, a few thousand people. It was just what an experience, what a ballpark. And I haven't been back since they become the short A affiliate, and that's something I really need to do probably next year.
Yeah, it's one of those spots, and there are a few around the league, a few around many leagues, but it's one of those spots where you could probably spend a whole 3 hours just walking around looking at stuff and not catch any of the game. Like there's so much stuff, old pictures and old artifacts and whatnot to look at that you could be amused forever.
Yeah, well, my first minor league game was, I think, 1988. It was Baseball City, Florida. The Royals had their spring training there, and they had a Florida State League. And there might have been about 12 people in the audience. It was part of Boardwalk and Baseball Amusement Park. I did get to see Ed Hearn, who was the backup to Gary Carter on the '86 Mets.
That's right.
But I fell in love with baseball then, and even though it was a small little crowd, because growing up in New Jersey, we didn't have minor league ball until 1994. So I was a teenager by then. Can you imagine what life would have been like if I was able to check out some more minor league games as a youngster?
Well, I guess surprise if we're going in the Wayback Machine. Surprise, surprise. My first minor league ball game was at McCoy Stadium back in 1974.
Wow.
And McCoy Stadium was a much different place back then. We won't get into it right now, but it was a 4,000 seat piece of garbage before Ben Mondor came in and really saved the franchise.
Yeah.
Since we're all going back to my first minor league ballpark, it's amazing that I have still gone to see minor league baseball, because I can't even remember what the name of it was. Sean, I know you've been there. I think it was Lynx Stadium when I was there.
Oh yeah.
Ottawa.
Only the Ottawa Lynx, but it's gone through a number of different names. But that was my first minor league ballpark, and like I said, amazing that I went back and saw minor league ball after that.
All right, our southern listeners would say, man, you were doing such a good job. You were covering south, west, north, and then you had to go back to Canada, damn it.
It happens. I can tell you about Ottawa. I remember, before the internet, I was in Ottawa back in 1996, and we just happened to read the newspaper that they had a minor league baseball team. And we're like, okay, let's go check it out. And I don't know what her thoughts were because, it was in her infancy of going to minor league ballparks. Mm-hmm. But I think it was called Ottawa Stadium back then. And you're right. It's how many? I don't even know who plays there anymore. The Ottawa Champions, I believe.
Ottawa Champions of the Can-Am League.
So I don't know what they draw. I don't know if they updated it since 22 years ago, but it probably shows its age, and that's a reason why it's not a AAA ballpark anymore.
They built just at the wrong time. They built sort of a very standard stadium with no amenities whatsoever just before the retro ballpark craze hit. And they lasted, 13 years there maybe?
Yeah, they did. What about Edmonton? Do you think they kind of missed the mark too with
Telus Field? I saw a game in Edmonton and just their last season. I liked it there. I thought it was kind of cool because one of the things, you're so far north, so far west that the sun doesn't set till 10:30.
No, you're right.
So I really enjoyed that.
And Edmonton was kicked out of that league essentially, right? Like the other partners in the Pacific Coast League decided they just didn't want to travel there anymore. And
it's a little bit of a burden.
Edmonton had good support, but there was like, nope, we're not going there. And that franchise ended up being Round Rock.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like Ottawa is now Lehigh Valley. So let's take a second before we wrap up. We talked about all of our favorites. Let's be awful and be mean girls. Let's talk about some of our least favorites. I'm going to go first. I got 3 here. My first one may surprise you. Dan, you know what one of mine's going to be, I think. Richmond is one of the ballparks that I was very disappointed in when I visited there. I don't know if any of you guys have probably all seen Richmond. It's like they took a big slice, like you cut a piece of cake out of that old veteran stadium and plopped it down right off the highway in Richmond. And the concourses, I don't know, when we went there, they were still the Richmond Braves, so this is a little ways back. Yeah. And we noticed that, like, on the concourses, lots of things were leaking, and it looked really dirty and dingy, and the concourses are really narrow, and this ballpark seats probably, 13,000, 14,000? So if they ever got a big crowd there, I can't imagine where all those people would go. So that was one of them. Another one, and Andrew Kulik is going to kill me for this, but Buffalo, man. I was so disappointed in Buffalo at Coca-Cola Park. I don't know what you guys think. You guys have all been there.
You know what? I liked it. I've been there a couple times in my life. I didn't have a problem with it, but if I went back, maybe I would have a different opinion. It was kind of the pre-Camden ballpark. It sort of set off a revolution in minor league baseball, but I don't know.
It's hard to believe for me that was built to be expandable into a major league ballpark. And, with the view, we were talking about ballparks with great views of mountains or downtown skylines. When you're in Buffalo, you look out to center field, what do you see? An on-ramp.
Yeah.
I don't know. I saw a game there, 29 degrees Fahrenheit. So.
Yeah. Buffalo was supposed to was built for the majors, and they have shrunk it significantly. I don't know. It's not awful.
Great location.
Yeah, a good location. It benefits, especially now. You'll hear Jays fans go down to Buffalo and talk about, wow, what a great park this is. And they've never been anywhere else.
They're probably right.
Well, that sounds like the people who don't want to replace McCoy Stadium because they think it's great. So go somewhere else, please. But my candidate
needs some help. It does need some help.
The concourse, too, for a major league ballpark. I can't imagine that being it's dark and narrow and small. But my least favorite minor league ballpark out of the ones I've been to is in Dan's neck of the woods in Woodbridge, Virginia, the Potomac Nationals, Fitzner Stadium.
Oh, God. If you literally just built a steel frame through seats against the sun so you always burned your neck, that is Peanut Stadium. It is absolute garbage.
35-year-old ballpark. That's how they used to build them. It's amazing how that has survived.
35 years old. It looks like
class or character whatsoever.
It looks like it's about a 70-year-old ballpark with a
it's like an erector set.
Oh,
it's what Harrisburg used to look like way back when.
I cannot overemphasize how bad it is. Like, I don't have words for it. The city has been
confusing.
Yes.
There's 3 Section 1s.
That I don't understand. And they've been trying. They've been trying, and they had plans for a new stadium, and it absolutely fell apart. I don't want to localize my location any more than Paul has, but
I said your neck of the woods. You could be a half an hour away.
That's very true. I am a half an hour away, Paul.
You're in Big Bone Lake, Kentucky, man.
Exactly. I'm more than a half an hour away. No, it's just, it's bad. Like, I can understand, like, at first being a ball player, like, I'm this close to the big leagues, and there's so many guys from the Nats that have come down to rehab, and I'll go see some games because I have no affiliation that comes to play here as far as the Phillies go. So I have no horse in the race. But then after a while, I can understand, like, I don't want to play anymore. This sucks. I can't do it. I can't imagine what the facilities look like down there.
I know the dugouts look like just big boxes.
Essentially, yeah. And no matter where you sit, like I said, the sun will beam onto your neck and burn you alive.
Dave, you got a couple entrants here?
Well, we talked about this before. Lloyd Brown, I'm letting you off the hook. But I am going to throw somebody else under the bus, another Stadium Journey correspondent who is as equally sweet and nice, and I'm going to throw Meg Menard under the bus because my least favorite is Colorado Springs.
Mm-hmm.
It is it's like a really nice beer league stadium, and it's in the back of a neighborhood. I swear I felt like I had played on that field at one point in time. Now, it's pretty bare bones, but what it will be, not this year, but next year, it will be really good because it's going to be a single A stadium. As that whole dance where San Antonio's getting a team and Amarillo's getting a team and boom, 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 they're all moving around. And I think it's a team from Montana is moving to Colorado Springs.
Helena.
And they're all owned by the same dude, man. But yeah, sorry, Meg. Love you lots.
Noise.
Colorado Springs. Ugh.
And you won't say it, Dave. I'll say it. The other one Dave was going to talk about was Gwinnett, Georgia.
I didn't say that.
Which is not a bad ballpark. It's just, I think it's location.
Location is terrible. Yeah.
Location.
And access getting to and from it.
Yeah, it's a terrible. And they charge for parking too, don't they?
Yeah, that's a pet peeve of mine when they hold you hostage. You're only option to park.
You know what I usually do when I go to a stadium and they're saying they're charging for parking? I show them my business card and I say, "Hey, I'm with the media," and they'll let you park for free. And most of the time, I would say 99% of the time, I am there to cover the stadium, so I'm not trying to abuse my privilege.
Any least favorites for you, Mark?
You know what? A lot of the Florida State League stadiums are just too big for me because they're built to house spring training. So by the time baseball season comes, they're either rained out or you have a few people sitting there. So I know Fort Myers I was a little bit disappointed in because I heard a lot of great things about this facility. And when I arrived there 2 days in a row, there had been some heavy rains, and I was really unable to take in a game and see what all the fun is good is what they promote. And so a lot of fun. Lowell, Massachusetts, I wasn't impressed with that stadium. It felt very bare bones and just kind of, there was a lot of fans there. So I have to say the fans were kind of in the mood. It's a nice town, especially if you're with the kids. Okay, you're shaking your head. We thought there was a lot of cool stuff to do before the game. I just wanted to get the heck out of there. Beloit, Wisconsin is one of those old relics of the 1980s. It's still hanging on. It's still baseball.
Not so long, aren't they building one in Madison?
They're building one in Madison, but that's going to be for the Mobile team. Beloit, Wisconsin is in the Midwest League, and it just is in the right location. I'm surprised it hasn't moved yet, but
it's an old style stadium.
Yeah, it's aluminum bleacher seating. cheap beer prices, though, if they can just add a little TLC, give the same treatment they gave to Charlie Brown's Christmas tree, you may have something pretty wonderful there, but as yet to see. And AAA-wise, Syracuse, New York is probably one of my least favorite ballparks, just because it was another built in the wrong location. Hopefully the Mets can do something good with it next year. God bless them.
And also, when they built Syracuse, they copied Norfolk's plan.
Yeah, and
it's a carbon copy of Norfolk.
You're probably right, but Norfolk has that wonderful bay in the background with the.
Yeah, it's in the harbor. Yeah,
it's in the harbor, but even that sometimes, it's a little bit outdated as well. But that's not up to me. I don't own the stadiums. Retrofit your ballparks.
Well, even the worst stadium is still a great place to be, right? We can all agree on that.
Absolutely.
Sean, any of the 160 that stand out negatively to you?
I'd have to go way back. Since as I approached the end, I became quite positive in pretty much every stadium I went to, always looking for the unique thing and trying to be very optimistic. But going back to like my first trip in 2001, I didn't enjoy Bowie, Maryland. I don't remember. Just not a nice place. Again, and a lot of it has to do with driving there, traffic, especially around rush hour. If you're going for a 7:00 game and you're just stuck in traffic, and I found that to be just a little bit of an unpleasant experience in Bowie. I believe they were mostly metal benches at that time. I don't remember there being the comfortable seats. It might have changed, and this is 17 years ago now, so I don't remember the details. Round Rock charges $10 for parking. That just annoyed me right off the bat. It's a beautiful park, but right away I'm okay. Well, I'm not going to have any beer tonight, I guess. So.
They got the Salt Lick restaurant there, so I just went over there and parked at the restaurant and walked over.
Oh, now I know. Modesto. I had an experience there. I was taking pictures for my blog, and somebody came out from security and said, "Well, are you taking pictures?" Well, it's a baseball stadium. I think
that happened to me.
Pictures. Oh, what is? I know you're right. You got me. I'm an evil terrorist. It's so crazy. That just annoyed me so much. It's like I'm just taking pictures of the stadium. I do it every time. This is the only place. I just remember it being Modesto, and that sort of soured me on that place quite a bit. And then Lexington as well. I think somebody mentioned Lexington. I went there in 2001, their first year. And because it was so busy, it was so crowded, it was sold out that we were sitting out in the outfield. And I remember thinking, this is insane. And I didn't really have a chance to experience that ballpark because I was out in the outfield, which for minor league baseball is very rare that you don't have any infield seats available. So again, that's mostly based more on the experience than the actual ballpark itself.
Sure. I know Bowie is actually, from what I've heard lately, it's really kind of falling. The ballpark is really fallen into a little bit of neglect. But my last trip there was probably about 5 or 6 years ago, and they had the meanest usher I've ever come across in my travels. We were there on a night where there was probably maybe 1,500 people in the ballpark, but her section down in the front, it's one of those ballparks where there's a lower section of seating, then there's one of those moats in the middle, then there's the upper seat. And she spent the whole 9 innings. This was a game that ended up being like 15-2. And she made sure nobody sat in that section unless they had a ticket. And nobody did. But I think maybe she didn't want to have to clean up the garbage afterwards. But she was militant about nobody going down in her section.
Was she a little sassy?
She was a lot sassy. So that was my big memory of Bowie, aside from one time drinking about 20 beers sitting in the non-alcoholic section without knowing it. And somebody took a picture of me, and we had stacked up all our plastic empties, and we were just sitting there having a great time. Nobody said a word to us. But when we looked at the pictures afterwards, it said non-alcoholic section. There was a big sign right above us as we're sitting there with all our empties. at least 5 or 6 beers into it, honestly. So, man, I think we could probably keep this discussion going all night if we wanted to. And that's the great part about traveling. But unfortunately, we've got to wrap it all up, so we're not, so we're not here all night. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in and listening. And if you've got some of your own favorite ballparks you've been to that you want to share with us, go to the website, go to stadiumjourney.com, put in your own stadium reviews in there, go to our Facebook page and give us your input, or hit us up on Twitter at Stadium Journey. We'd love to hear from you. So, Sean, I want to thank you for joining us once again. And once again, tell our listeners where they can follow your journeys.
I'm at a blog. I have a blog, sportsroadtrips.com, and I'm on Twitter at sportsroadtrips.
Thanks again. Dan, do you have any trips planned? And even if not, where can your listeners follow you online?
Follow me not going anywhere at DanLaw83 in more ways than one.
Mark, do you have any stadium journeys planned after your big trip? And where can the listeners follow them?
Well, you can follow me at Twitter, Ballpark Hunter. I do fly home to New Jersey tomorrow. Thursday night, I will be in Lakewood to check out the Blue Claws.
Oh, yeah.
After that, I will be in Trenton to check out those Thundering Thunders. And Jersey Flight, indoor football, may also be on my list. And hopefully, just hopefully, I can get back to Reading to see those Fighting Phils take on Harrisburg. So, yeah, it should be an exciting few weeks, and I'll be back. I don't know where I'll be the next time we do this podcast, but I'll be heading to Minneapolis, so it should be exciting next few weeks.
We'll track you down, no matter where you are.
It's not too hard. Not in this day and age.
That's right. That's right. Dave, do you have any stadium journeys planned for the upcoming 2 weeks, and where can our listeners follow them online?
Well, next week I will be heading to Ottawa with about 67 grade 8 students who better be good or else, as I'm going on the school trip. So no sports involved there. But the following weekend after that, it is August, as the home opener is on June 23rd at BMO Field, and I'm going to get to watch the Grey Cup banner be raised. So you can follow that on Twitter and Instagram at Profan9.
For
Johnny Manziel, Tabbies.
Where's Manziel playing?
Hamilton.
Hamilton.
Yeah. It's the savior.
Touchdown pass the other night, didn't he?
It's better than not playing football or playing some ridiculous spring league with 4 teams in it.
Well, if somebody would pay me, I'd go play.
No, I mean, yeah, me too. But I mean, Johnny Manziel. I mean, just playing Canada. Stop being a pain in the you know what. Okay,
he's got to earn the job first.
Yeah, that's true too. He does have to earn the job.
All right, for myself, the next 2 weekends are 2 of my favorite on the entire calendar. We're not going anywhere. Well, we're not going very far. But what we're doing is the Cape Cod League is starting up. And the first 2 Sundays of their season, every team plays double headers. And the way they're staggered and as close as all the Cape League teams are to each other, I will hit 3 games this Sunday and the following Sunday.